So I stopped playing Battlefield 1 around July of last year, and nothing had really drawn me back to the game. But for the past 2 weeks I've done nothing but play Battlefield 1 Turning Tides all day long. What's going on, guys? Welcome to another video. Today I want to give DICE a little bit of love. Battlefield 1 has had a massively turbulent life. Not quite as bad as Star Wars Battlefront 2, but it definitely seems that whatever DICE and EA do has just gone totally wrong, and that's happened ever since the launch of Battlefield 1. The first two DLC expansions didn't really do much to help, as both were pretty uninspired and didn't really add much at all to the vanilla game. I tried both at launch, and I was kind of still playing Battlefield 1 at the time of They Shall Not Pass, but if anything it just pushed me away because it just did not live up to what I expected, and then In the Name of the Tsar just did not include anything that I wanted it to, and again that just did not draw me back to the game. So when Turning Tides was about to come out, I just didn't even bother playing it. It came out, I ignored it completely, and I thought I'll just wait until the apocalypse and see what that one's like. But now that I've given it some time, Turning Tides has totally brought me back to Battlefield 1, and I just can't stop playing it. The biggest reason I feel for this is the map design. DICE has seriously made 4 of the best maps in Battlefield 1. For me, Bad Company 2, Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, they all worked so well because of the brilliant map design. Firstly, they all felt unique. They just felt so independent. Each map had something characterizing it, and they all felt like you had to change your playstyle to different maps. And like I said, they all had strong characteristics that made them stand out, made you want to play those maps. And each map had areas designated for combat, and that's not just areas for infantry, tanks and jets. That's areas that were just infantry or just tanks, or where tanks would dominate but infantry could still play a part. Think about how well maps like Siege of Shanghai, Damavand Peak, Zavod 311 and Arica Harbour, think about how well they worked, because there were areas that were purely designed for infantry combat, and then there are areas that tanks could completely dominate as well. So for one example, on Damavand Peak, the tunnel could be just purely dominated by tanks, and that would really be the main focus point of the combat. But the little tunnels that ran parallel to were obviously purely infantry, and then most of the combat areas outside of the tunnel was purely infantry because of how close and tight it was. You'd really struggle to get a tank in that kind of area. Another thing is that for the most part, the maps in Battlefield 1 are just sort of bland and plain, they're just uncharacteristic, and there's nothing really interesting about them. Take a map like Sinai Desert, for example. It's just a desert. There's nothing really that separates it from the other maps and makes you want to go and play it for that certain reason. Aside from the rocks and the town and the behemoth train, there's really not much that actually makes it an interesting map. Then, if you take a Battlefield 4 map, like Paracel Storm, there's the beach ship, the radio tower, the dockyard, in general the massive palm trees and the amount of sort of forestation there was, and of course the intense wind and rain that would eventually come in wouldn't drastically change up the map, but would give this whole new feeling to the map and really make it feel different. Turning Tides does a fantastic job of changing this all, giving us incredibly well designed maps that are just so much fun to play. If I'm right or wrong about the design of the maps and what makes them interesting, you can't deny that these maps are incredibly fun, and again, some of the best maps in Battlefield 1, if not the best. Now, each one has something that establishes it against the rest. Even if you don't know the map, there's still some way you can characterize it, and people probably understand what you mean. You can say, yeah, it's the one with the giant concrete sort of island that pokes out, the peninsula, and then there's the one that's the big desert. You know, you fight mostly in trenches, and there's the 5 flags, and there's a back route from the starting flag of the Ottomans, starting flag of the British, and there's a characteristic to all of these maps that makes them interesting and a lot of fun to play. Now, Naval Strike is my favourite DLC from Battlefield 4, and I would honestly be happy to just see those maps completely rehashed and to have them act like it was, some island off the coast of Iran or something like that. Just redo these and there you go, there's the Battlefield 4 Naval Strike maps, have those. I would have been happy with that. But rather than just remaking those maps or trying to do exactly what they did, they've made maps that are just as good, if not better, and then have added an absolute ton to the maps to make them really interesting and change up so much. As it should, the sequel has done everything the original did, but has added in new things, changed it up, made it more interesting. That is one thing that Star Wars Battlefront 2 didn't seem to do, in the fact that it just made a new Star Wars Battlefront game that had some of the things the original one, and then had some new stuff as well. But compared to the 2005 version, it had nothing. Another thing that Star Wars Battlefront 2 has is that it doesn't seem like DICE really trusted the players enough to give them full control of major vehicles. If you call in the Republic gunship, you actually sit in a little pod and shoot down. Rather than being able to control that ship, you just sit on rails. Now, this is one concern I had for Turning Tides when it was announced, is that I thought, oh, they're going to give you control of a battleship that's going to be on rails, and you're not going to be able to control it. You'll just be driving backwards and forwards, or it'll be circling the map, something like that. It's pointless. What's the point? But with Turning Tides, you can take control of a full-sized L-class destroyer, and it's not on rails at all. And it's not a behemoth either. It spawns in like a normal vehicle, obviously with a longer time to it. You're not just going to find one every 5 minutes. I believe it's something like it's 10 minutes or certain points maybe. And of course it requires no points to unlock it, and anyone can use it with more than one person in it. If you get in it, then you have 3 more seats that people to use, and it's a great way to actually dominate certain areas of the map. The destroyer and destroyer combat is so much fun, and it is incredible to watch from the coast, to be part of in a ship, and to actually then get in a torpedo boat and try and take down the opposing destroyer. It's just so much fun to do, and it feels so engaging. And of course the behemoths can completely change up this environment. They are just massive compared to the destroyers and can just dominate them. And the fact that on Conquest they spawn more than regular, they'll spawn 2 or 3 times in a game at the same time for either side, you can get these fantastic behemoth and behemoth battles, and the whole map just focuses in on that battle. In general, these flatter maps with more of a focus on the conquest flags and actually, holding a flag like a bunker or something like that, rather than having these big hillsides where snipers can just sit, the whole combat is just changed up. It lets you be a closer range rather than a long range, but you can still dominate at a medium range to the point where with a good team you can just blitz across the whole map. The new guns and the new vehicles like the mini blimp, which, although highly unrealistic, is basically like a helicopter in World War One, it is a lot of fun to use and really does change up the gameplay. Originally, I didn't feel Battlefield 1 played right. It was just weird and sort of disjointed. The guns just didn't feel as if, they'd been designed for the same maps that they were on, and the fact that you had the Automatico at 900 rounds per minute, compared to something that just had 600 rounds per minute and was a medic weapon, everything just felt like it didn't fit. It felt like, okay, he beat me with that gun, using the same class. There is no gun that is able to beat that. What's the point? And by adding these new guns in, they've changed this up to the point where you go, okay, I'm getting beaten with that gun. If I change to use this instead, I have a chance of winning. The addition of these guns and these vehicles means that there's so much more options in terms of what you can do and how you can play, rather than being stuck with the same old weapon that works well. You can change up, try something new, and of course now guns have better advantages over certain ones, rather than being, this gun is amazing and this gun is terrible. Each one has some kind of advantage. But either way, like I said, even if I'm right or if I'm just completely wrong and everything I've said has been a complete lie, I still think it is totally worth coming back to play Turning Tides right now. Now, Apocalypse, the final Battlefield 1 DLC, is right around the corner, and to be honest with you, I jump up Turning Tides right now before that one comes out. Just in case Apocalypse comes out, it changes up so much with an update. I play Turning Tides right now when it's in this state because it is just so much fun. I doubt they'll change a lot with Apocalypse, and Turning Tides will probably be a hell of a lot of fun, but this is definitely my favourite DLC from Battlefield 1. Doesn't quite beat Naval Strike as my favourite Battlefield DLC, but it definitely does change this game up and make it a hell of more interesting. Now, like I said, Apocalypse is incredibly near. Who knows if that's the final Battlefield DLC for Battlefield 1? the earliness of their release makes it kind of interesting because we still have about 6 months until a new game is meant to be out. So why have they done it now? Who really knows? Maybe it's to bring out even more DLC that is free to the player, because of course if you bought premium you get all these anyway, and then maybe we'll see more free DLC in the summer to promote a more friendly and sort of player focused DICE before the new game comes out. Either way, hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. Do like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.